So what diet is best for weight loss? Well, any diet that provides a caloric deficit can produce weight loss, as Roy Taylor demonstrated with the liquid meal replacements. People could eat Twinkies if they ate 800 calories a day and still lose weight. But the reality is the diet that is best for weight loss is one that also decreases morbidity and mortality, that supplies adequate nutrients, and that is accessible, sustainable for the long term, and culturally appropriate for the individual who's following the diet. If we look at vegetarian diets and weight loss, we have a meta-analysis of 12 randomized controlled trials that found vegetarian diet groups lost significantly more weight than non-vegetarian diet groups, about 4.5 pounds more. Vegan diets were more effective than lacto-ovo-vegetarian, with about a 5.5 average weight loss versus about 3.3 in lacto-ovo-vegetarian diets. And those consuming vegetarian diets with energy restriction experience significantly greater weight reduction than those without, sort of the ad libitum diets, about 5 pounds versus about 2.5, so about twice as much weight loss with the energy restricted diets. Now, a lot of people ask about keto, because keto diets have been shown to be fairly effective for at least short-term weight loss. But there was this is the highest level study that you can get. This is a metabolic ward study with 20 adults that randomized individuals to consume one of two diets ad libitum for 2 weeks, followed immediately by the alternate diet for 2 weeks. And this study was done in 2021. This is Kevin Hall's group. And they compared the two diets were the minimally processed plant-based low-fat diet, about 10% fat, 75% carbohydrate, and then a minimally processed animal-based keto diet, about 75% fat and 10% carbohydrate. So flipping those two numbers. Weight loss after 2 weeks was higher in the keto diet. It was 3.9 pounds compared to only 2.4 in the plant-based diet. However, weight loss on keto was mostly water, not fat. Fat loss was over 3 times greater with the plant-based diet at about 51 grams versus 16 grams per day on the keto diet. And effective strategies, probably the most effective strategies for energy restriction are, number one, continuous energy restriction. So that's diets that reduce overall energy intake. And here we're talking about lower, very low calorie diets. It might be a 1,200 calorie diet or a 1,500 calorie diet. In these kinds of diets, medical supervision is required, especially for those who are on insulin or diabetes medications. The second effective strategy is a modified fast. And this is either time-restricted feeding, limiting food intake to a certain window, say from 10 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon or something like that. And secondly, intermittent fasting, restricting energy 2 to 3 days a week or alternate days. And then the third is reducing meal frequency. Eating 2 meals a day seems to be more effective for producing weight loss than eating the exact same number of calories in 6 meals a day. And finally, modified timing of meals, not eating at least 2 or 3 hours before bedtime. I think best is to eat an early dinner and to stop eating after dinner and not eat again until breakfast the next day. So practical pointers here. Eat less calorically dense foods. So when we look at the caloric density of the number of calories per gram of food, the very highest is oil. Then things that are fried, like potato chips and fried chicken. Then, more calorically dense foods like donuts and cheddar cheese, those kinds of things. You can see at least 4 to almost 9 calories per gram. Compare that to beans, barley, bananas, watermelon, romaine lettuce, having about between 0.2 and 1.4 calories per gram. And what does this mean? It means that you can eat a much bigger volume of food eating these whole plant foods than you can eating these more concentrated sources of calories. And that gives you more satiety, more fiber, more of all of those things. Number 2 is to practice portion. practice portion control. And we really found this in the Marshall Islands research, that controlling portions is important when eating even healthy, energy-dense foods. So we controlled portions of concentrated carbohydrates, grains, starchy vegetables, dried fruits, and found that that made a big difference in our results. So just measuring out and making sure you're not over consuming those more concentrated calorie sources. And then also concentrated fat sources like nuts and seeds and avocados and olives and coconut. These foods have a lot of calories per gram, so we need to be aware of that and to eat smaller portions. Number 3 is to drink water. Don't drink your calories unless those calories are replacing a meal. So you're having a smoothie to replace a meal, that can be acceptable. But otherwise, don't drink calories, and eat less often, as I mentioned, aiming for at least 4 to 6 hours between meals, drinking water, herbal tea between meals. And that brings us to step number 2. We want to minimize ultra-processed foods. And this one, I just can't overstress the importance of this step. So what are ultra-processed foods? Well, these are nutrient-poor, energy-dense, industrially processed foods made from cheap, highly refined carbohydrates, fats, and sometimes proteins. And to make ultra-processed foods look and taste like real food, and to enhance their shelf life, dyes and other colors, flavors, artificial sweeteners, stabilizers, bulking agents, defoaming agents, anti-caking agents, emulsifiers, glazing agents, and preservatives are added. And examples are things like sugar-sweetened beverages, pre-sweetened breakfast cereals, a lot of the commercial white flour products, salty snacks, packaged fried noodles, processed meats, chicken or fish nuggets, fish sticks, most commercial ice creams, processed cheese and cheese spreads, ready-to-eat foods like pre-prepared pizza, meat pies, margarine, shortening, all of these are UPFs. And UPFs, there was a study, a huge umbrella review of 45 meta-analyses that reported that UPFs are directly linked to 32 harmful health effects, including mortality, obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, cancer, mental health disorders, and sleep disorders. And the main mechanisms of action are these foods displace healthful foods, reducing diet quality. They contribute to weight gain by increasing energy intake by an estimated about 500 calories a day. They concentrate harmful components like added sugars, solid fats, sodium, food additives, and industrial processing products. They reduce protective components like fiber and phytochemicals, and they alter the food matrix, which can negatively impact digestion, nutrient absorption, and satiety. And UPFs are physically addictive. Ultra-processed foods concentrate flavors that are very dilute in nature. And when these flavors, and we're talking about salt and fat and sweet flavors, when these flavors are combined in a single food, it makes them hyperpalatable and very difficult to stop eating. UPF foods cause intense cravings. They evoke similar levels of dopamine in the brain to those seen with nicotine and alcohol. And unfortunately, the American diet is largely UPF. It's estimated that close to 60% of food in the typical American diet is ultra-processed, with the highest quintile being over 80%. So that's bad news. Practical pointers here: to reduce UPFs, we want to prioritize whole and minimally processed foods. We want to cook at home more often. Start making healthy swaps, like swap white for whole grain bread, sweetened yogurt for plain yogurt plus fresh fruit. Avoid sweet drinks and minimize foods with labels. If you do buy a food with a label, compare added sugar, fat, salt, hydrogenated oils. Look for few ingredients in the product. Number 3 is to make whole plant foods our key sources of carbohydrates. And contrary to popular opinion, carbohydrates are not the enemy. Carbohydrates from whole foods are consistently protective to human health. And if we look at the carbohydrate content of food, and this is, I think, one of the most powerful images to counter the belief that carbohydrates are bad, if you look at the carbohydrate content of fruits, vegetables, and this is starchy vegetables, grains, legumes, and non-starchy vegetables, these foods derive 58 to 92% of their calories from carbohydrates. These are the healthiest foods on the planet. Contrast that, nuts and seeds are the only plant food that are relatively low in carbohydrates at an average of about 12%. Contrast that to eggs and meat, poultry, fish, with 0 eggs, with 3% of calories from carbohydrates. Dairy products, especially fluid milk, has a reasonably high level of carbohydrates for an animal product at about 37% from lactose, of course. If we look at the research on carbohydrates and diabetes risk, we see the percent of calories from carbohydrates really has little influence on diabetes risk.